We begin today the Gemara on Daf Ayin Amud Aleph, continuing here with various different healings that there are for illnesses. This Perek began with Misha Achsa Kurdiakis, and it's a shed that takes hold of a person, and it gave a remedy for that. So it continues with the remedies that Chazal gave for different illnesses. Begins the Gemara. Lachaza Zisa, a person that has blisters. Rashi calls it Yalefes, which is mentioned in the Torah. This is a kind of blister that's moist on the outside and dry on the inside. What should he do to heal it? Leisi Shev Chiti Arzanaise, he should bring 7 very large wheat, viniklinu, and he should burn it, or he should what? Roast it. Amarad Chadete, on the metal of a new shovel. V'nafik mishcha minayu, and an oil will come out of it, and he should use that oil v'neishif. He should apply it on the blisters he has. Rav Shimi bar Ashi avad lei lahahu ovid kachavim. Rav Shimi bar Ashi did this to heal a guy, and l'dava acher for a tzaras, and it healed him v'itzi. Right, so this is the Gemara is mentioning this here. The Mefarshim say that you're allowed to do these things also even for the healing for a guy. We had before in the Gemara, Mipnei Darki Shalom, even for a guy as well. Shmuel said, Hai man de machule ba'alunki de parsoi. This person that was struck by a Persian spear. Rashi here says that they would put this sama mavis, some poison on the spear, that if it hits the person, then it goes into his blood and he dies. So loichaya. So he's not going to live. But in between, if you want this person to live just a little more, you should give him fat meat that's on coals, prepared and roasted on coals, and fresh, good wine, not diluted wine. And then what will this help? He'll live a little bit longer, and he'll have time at least to write at Sava for his family, for his possessions. Omar Avidi bar Avin said, Haiman de Bala Zibura, a person that swallows a Zibura, I think it's translated as a hornet. So he's not going to live. But again, for a little bit of time, if you want him to live, Nishkei Reviese the Chol Shamzak, give him to drink a revius of a very strong vinegar. Efshe the Chai Porta, he'll live a little longer, a Mifkad Lebeisa, and he'll have time to write at Tzavah for his family. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Ochal besar sher belefes. A person eats the meat of an ox together with turnip, and then velon belavana, and he sleeps outside under the sun, under the moon. That is belele yudalid tezvav, in the middle of the month, whether yudalid or tezvav, betkufas Tammuz, in the time of Tammuz in the summer. So then achzasai achilu. It's what's going to grab him. He's going to get sick with achilu, and the Gemara will soon describe what this achilu is. So Tana, we learned another thing when a person gets grabbed by this achilu, similar also when a person has food in front of him and he fills his food, his stomach completely from things that he likes, that he enjoys, and he totally fills his entire taiva with this. So it also achilu. It brings him this sickness called achilu. Rav Papa says afilu metamri. This means even a person that fills his stomach with dates. So the Gemara asks, why are we pointing out specifically dates? Pshita. It's obvious that it should apply to dates as well. Says the Gemara, dates are actually very good to a person. So I would think, since the master has said about dates, Tamri, that dates, misavon, they satisfy a person, or meshachnon, they warm up a person, or meshalshalon, and they also cause a person to be able to relieve himself, or ma'ashron, and they strengthen a person, v'loi mefankan, even though it's sweet and it's tasty, but nevertheless it doesn't spoil a person to want only sweet things. So I would think that with dates, eat as much as you want and fill yourself with all the taiva you have, and it's not a problem. Kamash malon, that's why it says here, with all the milas of dates, but nevertheless too much is also not good. Now, my achilu. What is this achilu we mentioned here? Amar Rabbi Lazar, eish shalatzomis, a fire, a heat in the bones. My eish shalatzomis, Amar Abaye, and he says it's the same thing, but in Aramaic, eish garmi, a fire in the bones. I think it says here that it's kadachas. It's mentioned in the pasuk in the Torah, kadachas, some kind of a fever or some kind of a issue with the bones of the person. My asuse. So what's the healing for this fire in the bones? This achilu. Amar Abaya said, Amrali Aim, the mother that raised him said, Kulu Shakyaini. So before she said about this, what you use to heal yourself from this, she said, all the other potions that you drink Tulase, v'shiva, v'teresa, you drink 3 times, or you drink 7 times, or 12 times, and that will heal you. But for high here, for this achilu, ad mitzi, kula shakyaini. Again, ad mitzi, you have to drink from it again and again until you get healed. Another thing, kula shakyaini, all the other potions that you drink, alibere kana. You should drink it on an empty heart, without an empty stomach. V'hai basa da achol, v'shasi. But this you should eat after a meal. You should drink it after a meal, after you eat and drink. And also v'ayla beisakise, and he relieved himself, and v'nofik umashiyada, and he came out and washed his hands. So now, what is this potion? What's this? That heals this achuli? So umaisile bune de shasise de talfichi. You bring a fistful of a dough that's made from lentils. Ubune de chamra atike, and a fistful of old wine. V'nigbelinu bahadi adadi, and you knead it together. And v'nechel, and he eats it. And then v'nichrech b'sadine, and you should wrap himself in his blanket. V'nigne, and you should sleep in it. And v'leke de noikme, nobody should wake him up. Adekoi menafshe, until he wakes up on his own. V'chikoi, and when he wakes up on his own, lishkale l'sadina minei, then you should take away his blanket from him. V'loi, if you won't, hadri lavei, this achuli could come back on this person. Amalei Eliyahu l'Rab Nosson. Eliyahu told Rab Nosson the following: Achol shlish, when you eat, so fill your stomach a third, or shesei shlish, and fill your stomach another third with drinking. But v'hanach shlish, but leave your stomach a third empty. L'keshetichos. So if you get angry, talmid al miloecha. So then that will fill the rest of your stomach. Meaning that if then it happens that you get angry and you'll be totally full, so then the person can burst altogether from his anger. So you have to always leave some empty space. Not that you should get angry, but if it happens. Tani Rab Chiya said, Ha'reitze shelo yavai lidei chayli mayim. Person wants to be sure that he doesn't become sick in his intestines, in his stomach. What should he do? Yehiragol betibel. You should always be accustomed when he eats bread to dip it. And Rashi says, dip it into wine or dip it into vinegar. And this is kayetz v'chayrev, summer or winter. Now, sudascha, another thing, your meal, shahanascha mimena, where you have a lot of pleasure in the food that you're eating, mishaych yatcha imena. So you should pull yourself away from it, which means don't fill your stomach completely from this food. And also, v'al tasha atzmacha, do not wait in a time when you have to relieve yourself. In another place, the Gemara actually brings it. This is learned from a pasuk of Al Tashaktsur. It's an isser for a person to wait when he has to relieve himself. But here it says it's also a matter of health. Marukve says, Haiman de Shasi Tilye Chivra, a person that drinks this white wine, which is a very inferior quality wine. Vitik. He's going to get grabbed hold by this illness, which is called vitik, which is a weakness. Amar Rav Chisda says, Shitten mine chamra hava. There are 60 kinds of wines. Ma'alya de kula, which is the best wine? Sumke reichsana. This red wine, which is a very aromatic wine. The Gemara doesn't tell you which one it is. So if you were hoping the Gemara was going to tell you, it doesn't. It just says a red aromatic wine. Kriya de kulu, the worst of all these wines is Tilya chivre, this white, very inferior wine. Amar Rav Yehuda said, Hai man de Yosef b'tzafrone Nissen gabinura. A person that in the month of Nissen wakes up in the morning and he sits by a fire, and v'shayef mishcha, and he smears himself with oil, and then v'nofik v'yosef b'shimsha, he goes out and sits in the sun. Achzasi vitik, he'll also get this weakness vitik. Tan Rabbanan, in a Braisa we learned, hik is dam, person that lets blood. In the times of the Gemara, it always talks about letting blood. In those times it was done, and a lot of blood, and it made a person very weak. V'shimish mitasa, and after this he has marital relations. Havin loy banim vitkin. He'll have children that are also weak, because he did it in a time of weakness. He'll have children that are weak. Hikizu shneim, if both the man and the woman had bloodletting before, v'shimshu, and they were together. Havin lohu banim bali rasan. Then they'll have children that are even weaker than this. They're very weak, and they have rasan. As she says, it's a sheretz b'mayach, some kind of a worm or bacteria that's in the brain. Rav Papa said, Lo yamaran el letam midi. This is only an issue if after the bloodletting they didn't eat or taste anything. Avol tam midi, if they ate afterwards, then less lamba. Then it doesn't matter. Then it's okay. Rabbi Baravone said, Ba min aderech, person that just came from the way, from traveling. V'shimish mitasa, and he has married relations right away. Havyon loy bonim viskin. He also will have children that are weak. Tanarabanan and Abraisa we learned Habami Beisakise, a person that's coming from relieving himself. Al Yeshamish Mitasa, you shouldn't have marital relations. Ad Sheyishe Shir Chatzi Mil. He has to wait the time that it takes to walk a half a mil. A mil is either 18 minutes or 24 minutes, so the half of that amount of time. Because the shindalet of the Beis HaKisei is accompanying the person. Vim shimish, so if he doesn't wait this time and he does have married relations, havon loy bonim nichbim, he'll have children which are nichbim, which is epileptic. Tana Rabbanan, and Abraisa we learned Amishamish mitasei mu'omed, the person that has married relations standing. Oichzasai avis, so it'll grab him this avis. What's avis? Rashi says again, cramp. Miyushiv sitting oichzasei delaria, so he'll have delaria. Now, what is this delaria? The Gemara doesn't explain. He milmaila v'hu milmata. If she's above and he's in the bottom, oichzasei delaria also will have this delaria. The Gemara asks, my delaria, which simply the Gemara is asking, what is this delaria? But as we'll see here, the Gemara does not explain. So maybe the Gemara is asking, what is the healing for this delaria? Omer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Sam delaria, the potion to heal delaria is dardara. Now, my dardara, what is this dardara? Omer Abaye moirike de chaychi, which is saffron that grows on thorns. Rav Papa olis ubalale. Rav Papa would chew it and swallow it. Rav Papa olis v'shadile. Rav Papa would chew it and spit it out. Omar Abaye says, Mishaina baki b'derech eretz, a person that is not strong enough to have marital relations, what does he do? Leisi gimel kapizi kurtumi d'chaychi. Let him bring 3 kapizi. Kapisi is a vessel that contains in it 3/4 of a lug, and he should fill it with kurtumi d'chaychi, which is saffron that it grows in a field where it was fertilized with the dung of a sheep. V'nedaikinu, and he should crush it. V'nishlekinu, and he should cook it b'chamra with wine, and v'nishti, you should drink this. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said about this, that this brought me back to my youthful energy that I had. Shloisha dvarim, says the Gemara, there are 3 things makchishin koicha shel adam, that weaken the energy of a person. And ve'elu hein, these are the 3 things. Pachad, fear, or Rashi actually says that it's worry or anxiety, that a person worries about the future, worries about his parnasa, worried about people that could attack him. Derech, and a person that travels too much. And va'avain, and sins. Taisus here says either it means when a person is too anxious about his averis, or the punishment of the averis. Pachad, so the fear or the anxiety of the future. The chsiv, the pasuk says, Libi secharchar, my heart is going around and around in worry. Azavani kaichi, and I lose all my energy. Derech, the chsiv, ino baderech kaichi, that my whole energy got afflicted from too much travel. Avain, the chsiv, kashal ba'avaini kaichi, my energy got weakened through averis. Ashloisha dvarim matizim gufish adam, there are 3 things that break apart the body of a person. Ve'eluhein, and it's the following. Ochal mu'umed, person eats standing. V'shasam mu'umed, or drink standing. V'shimish mitasam mu'umed, marital relation standing. And then there's chamisha, there are 5 things, that is, that kreivin lemisa yaisim and achayim, that if a person does this, he's closer to death than to life. Ve'eluhein, ochal v'amad v'shasa, and v'amad. Again, achal v'amad, he eats and he immediately gets up, doesn't wait, or he drinks and he immediately gets up. Hikis dam, after bloodletting, v'amad, and he gets up immediately. Yashan, he is sleeping and he wakes up, v'amad, and he immediately jumps out of bed. And shimish mitasai v'amad, and also after married relations, and he immediately gets up. So this is actually, it says here, the Gemara here doesn't say a shir, but it says, it's brought from the Maharil, he says that by eating and drinking, how long should you wait before you get up? Not such a long time, as long as the bracha achrayna takes. So that's the length of time you should wait. And when you get to the morning, this is actually also brought by in the Paiskim, that when you wake up in the morning, even though it says Yizgaber Kari, you should get out of bed right away, but nevertheless, you should wait some period of time before you jump out of bed. Shisha, these 6 things here. Ha'isa aisan. If you do all 6 things, one after the other, miyad meis, the person will die immediately. Ve'elohein, and these are the 6 things. Haba b'derech v'nisyageya. Person came from a trip and he's all exhausted. And what did he do right after this? Hikis dam. He bled blood. And then after this, v'nichnas lebeisa merchitz, he goes into the bathhouse. And then v'shasa, he went and drank v'nishtakir, and he became intoxicated. V'yashan al gabi karka, and he went to sleep on the ground. And then after that, v'shimish mitasa, he had married relations. You do all these 6 at once, then the person dies. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, but v'hu shasan kesidron. That's only if it was in this order, the way it's said here. But Abaye said kesidron, if it's done in this order, mace, he'll die. Shaloi kesidron, but if it's done not in this order, cholish, it'll make him very weak. But the Gemara asks, is it only if you did all these 6? Yeah, Aini, is this true? But v'ma'oires, which is the name of a woman. Of the Leila Avda Tlast Minayu, she had her servant do 3 of these, Umis, and he died. So the Gemara says, Ahu Kachashavi. He was very weak, so he died even only with 3 of these things. Shmaina, there are 8 things, Ruban Kasha. Too much of it is not good for the person, but Umiyutan Yafer. A little bit of it is very nice, is good for a person. What are these 8 things? Ve'elo hein, derech, traveling. V'derech eretz, marital relations. Oisher, richness. Rashi here says, richness, a little bit of it is good, but too much of it is mevatel a person from learning, and it makes him a balgaiva. Malacha, work. Some say that actual work, even a lot, is good, but it means when a person is looking for different kinds of work, he gets himself all confused. He doesn't know what he wants to work. He learns this work and another work. Yayin, wine. Shina, sleeping. Chamin, warm water, which you use to bathe yourself and to drink. V'hakazas dam, letting blood. So these are things that, if you do it with the right measure, it's good. Shmaina, there are 8 things, mimatim esazera. It minimizes the zera of the person. Ve'elohein, hamelach, salt, v'harav, hunger, v'hanetek, and it's tzaras, b'chia, crying, shina, sleeping, al gabi karka, when a person sleeps on the ground, v'gid gedoniyos, which are coriander, and v'kishus shaloi bizmana, and hops that you eat, not in its season. V'hakazas dam, lemata, if a person lets blood, and the blood is taken out from the lower part of his body, kiflayim, then it will take away the zera of the person, double the amount of everything else. Tana, now we learned about this, kishem shekasha lamata kiflayim, just like letting blood in the lower part of the body is double as bad, kach yofa lamayla kiflayim, so too letting blood from the top part of his body is double as good. Now the Gemara explains what's lamata and what's lamayla. Omer of Papa, lamata means lamata min abeitzim. The lower part of the body is under the testicles of the person. Rashi says in the feet or on the thighs. Lamayla is lamayla min abeitzim, or above that. If you take blood from the shoulders or in the neck or in any other area like that, so then it's very good for the person. The kishus shaloi bismana. We just mentioned the hops that a person eats not in its season, so that's not good for the zera of the person. So Tana, Kishem, Shekasha Shaloi Bizmana, just like the hops not in its season is not good for the person, Kach Yafa Bizmana. In the season, it's good for the person. So Rav Papa says, Zmana, the season of this hops is Tammuz. In the summertime and Tammuz time. Shaloi Bizmana, what's not the season for these hops? Tevis, in the winter. Now, Yoimi Nisan v'Yoimi Tishri, in Nisan, which is the spring, or Tishrei in the fall, Loi Mailu v'Loi Kashu. So the hops, it's not beneficial for the person, but it's not harmful for the person. Atkan, the remedies and the potions and the healings that Chazal tell us here. Now we go back to the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek, and the Gemara brings the second case that it said there in the Mishnah. Omar kisvu get lishti. Person said, write a get for my wife, and then v'ochze kurdiyakas. After this, he grabbed hold from this kurdiyakas, it said from drinking a lot of wine, and he lost his mind. V'chazar v'omar al tichtavu. And then he says, don't write the get for my wife. Ein dvarav achreinim klum. So what he says now is worthless, and you can give the get. Rav Shimon ben Lakish, Reish Lakish says about this, Kaisvin v'noisten get lalta. That means that even now, when he's in this mentally deranged state, you can write the get immediately. Rav Yechanan says, Ein Kaisvin ela l'kishi yishtafe. That no, the Mishnah Taka says you can write the get, but you can only write the get when he heals again. So it's even though the Mishnah said that you can write, but you have to wait until he heals again. Now, the Gemara explains the source of what it said in our Mishnah. My time of the Reish Lakish. Why does Reish Lakish say that you can give the get right away? The Ketani, because the Mishnah says, Ein b'dvarav achreinim klum. Simple meaning of the words of the Mishnah is that what he said now, don't give the get, is totally meaningless. So, you can give it right away. Rabbi Yechanan says, Ein b'dvarav achreinim klum. When the Mishnah says that his words that he says now is meaningless, that's l'chi mitzel. When he gets his clarity of mind back, then you're not going to have to consult with him again about giving this get. But so you're still going to be a shliach. In other words, the shlichus has not been absolved because he lost his mind in between. But even though he's still a shliach, but during this time where he's in a mentally deranged state, you can't give the get. But you could only give the get when he becomes healthy again. What's not the logical basis of the machlekes of Rabbi Yechanan Reish Lakish? Reish Lakish, Nedami Leili Yoshan. Rish Lakish compares this person that drank a lot of wine and he's in this state. So it's like a person that's sleeping. So he tells you to give a get. Then he goes to sleep. He's still totally healthy, really. He's just sleeping now. You can still give the get. But Rabbi Yechon says, no, this person is like someone that totally lost his mind, a shaita, and for a shaita, he can't give a get. So now what are they arguing about? Why wouldn't Rabbi Yechanan compare him to someone that's asleep? So Rabbi Yechanan tells you, Yashan loy mechusa maisa. For a person that's asleep, there's no action that is missing, that's lacking over here, that you have to do in order to heal this person. Hi, mechusa maisa. But here, this person, there's an action you have to do. And this is what the Gemara mentioned in the beginning of the Perek, that this person that gets overcome by this wine that he drank, so there's a special healing you have to do for him. Yeah, he has to drink special, the Gemara said before that you bring this meat, this red meat that he has to drink, and diluted wine. So there's an action you have to do to heal him, so it's not so simple. Rish Lakish, on the other hand, according to Rish Lakish, so why wouldn't Rish Lakish compare this person to a shaita that you can't give a get for a shaita? So the answer is shaita loy sami biyadon. For a shaita, a person that's really mentally deranged, we have no potion, we have no way to heal him. Hi sami biyadon. For him though, we have a potion, we have something to heal him, which is what we mentioned, bistra sumka gumre, by roasting the red meat on coals, v'chamre marka, and diluted wine. So if there's a way to heal him, so he's not really a shaita, and therefore he can give this get. Okay, so here, this Gemara, we pass him like Rabbi Yechanan. There's a famous machlokes, according to Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan here says that while he's in this mentally deranged state, he can't give the get. So there's a machlokes between the Rambam and the Torah, whether this is a minat Torah. The get is going to be totally bottled minat Torah. That's what the Torah says. The Rambam says if you're going to give this get in this time where he's mentally deranged, minat Torah, it's still going to be a good get. It's only a gzeirim d'Rabbanan that people shouldn't think that a shaita can give a get. So here there's a famous k'tzais that says, based on this Gemara, that here you see when a person appoints a shliach, and then the mishaleach that appointed him lost his mind. So the question is, could the shliach still be a shliach that the mishaleach lost his mind? So he says here, based on this Gemara, you see a machlokes between the Rambam and the Torah, whether you can still be a shliach. That's what the K'tzai says. And this applies not only for a get, this applies bichlal, regarding the din of shlichus, money matters, and all kinds of things. But the Tzemach Tzedek here in this Gemara argues with this K'tzai, and he says that it has nothing to do with the din of shlichus. He's definitely still a shliach. The Gemara here clearly says, even according to Rabbi Yechanan, that he won't have to appoint him as a shliach again when his mind becomes clear again. But the machlokes is, in this state, after he drank wine and his mind is not clear, could we rely on the appointing of the shliach before or not? Do we say Anan Sahadi, he already appointed him before, and therefore even now when he's in his mentally deranged state, he can still give the get or not? That's the way that Tzemach Tzedek explains this Gemara here. Okay, but now the Gemara asks a question on Rabbi Yechanan. What did Rabbi Yechanan say? That when he's in this state, he can't give a get. But Rabbi Yechanan Hachi, did Rabbi Yechanan say this? But for Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel, Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Shachat by Shnayim, Oyrev Shnayim. A person that two or most of the two pipes of his throat were slit, and then the Ramas, he's about to die, and he hints, that he indicates with his hands or whatever, that Van Ba'aman, he's saying, Kisvu get l'ishti, to write a get for his wife, you can write and give the get for his wife. And similar, Tanya we learned in the Braisa, you see a person that his body was cut up, or he's hanging. And V'ramas, he's about to die, and he hints and he says, V'ama kisvu get l'ishti, write a get for my wife. So you can follow what he indicated, and you write and give the get. So what do you see here? A person in such a kind of a state, the Gemara understands, is completely lost his mind. He's about to die. And nevertheless, you can rely on what he's saying to give the get. So how does Rabbi Yechanan here say that this person in this time when he's got the wine that he drank, that because of this he can't give a get for him, that he's called a shaita? So the Gemara answers, there's no comparison. Hachi hashte, how could you compare the two? Hasam daitet silusihi. Over there, it's not a person that lost his mind. His mind is really clear. But because of what happened to him, he's about to die, so therefore he's very weak and he can't talk, so he could only indicate. But that's enough. His mind is with him, so therefore we can take that simon that he made and give a get. Over here, this person's mind is already completely confused. This person is not in his regular state. So therefore, over here, when he changes his mind, or in this state that is, you can't give a get for him. Fact the Gemara, but here we quoted this in the name of Shmuel regarding this person here that is about to die. So Shmuel says you can give a get based on his command. But Amish Oma Shmuel Hachi, did Shmuel say such a thing? V'Amar Rav Yehuda Oma Shmuel, but Shmuel said another halacha as follows: Shachat by Shnayim Oirayv Shnayim. If a person his throat was slit and the two pipes or most of the two pipes were already cut. Ubarach, and this person continued running and he ran, and you didn't see him falling, you didn't see him actually when he died. So, but nevertheless, Me'idin Olav, you can testify about him that he died, that his wife should be able to get remarried. If you're going to say that this person in such a state, when he makes a sign that you should give a get, and he's still considered to be alive, so then Amai Me'idin Olav. How could you say Eidus for him regarding that time period that he's dead? The Gemara right now is thinking that it means that you can say Eidus that he's already dead then, but he's not. According to Shmuel, he can even still command to give a get. Amri, so the answer was given, Yechayu, he is alive then, but V'soifei Lamos, but it's definite that he's eventually going to die. So the Eidus over here is that he eventually did die, and now his wife could get married. But if so, the question is, Yehei Goyle, if you're telling me that such a person that is for sure going to die, so someone that did this to someone, he did it accidentally, so he should have to go to Golos. The halacha of a person that kills b'shaygig that has to go to Golos should apply here. Al yadeh through this. Now Allah metanya. Why did we learn in a braisa? Shachat by shnayim oiroiv shnayim. Person that slit the throat of someone, and again it's b'shaygig, and it's shnayim oiroiv shnayim, the two pipes or most of both of these pipes. Harei ein goyla. This person does not go to Golos through this. He didn't kill him immediately, he doesn't die right away, so he doesn't go into Golos, or it seems like it's not definite that he's going to die, so therefore he doesn't go to Golos. But we just said that for sure he's going to die, so he killed him, b'shaygig. Answers the Gemara, ha'itmer Allah, but we learned an explanation for this braise that Amar Rav Aishia said, Chayshinan were concerned, Shema haruach bulbalasai. That even, yes, it's definite that he is going to die, but how is he going to die? The wind that blows comes and also mixes in, meaning that he dies even quicker, not only with the action that this person did, but the wind accelerates the death. So it comes out that this person died, but not only through your action. It was also the wind that contributed to this. And in such a case, you don't go to Galus. Inami, or another possibility, who kireves misasai. The person himself, the victim, brought his death closer than what this person himself did to him, because he himself, when he's dying, his body is shaking around, and that itself brings his death even closer. So Taisus here points out that this halacha here, that you don't go to Galus because of the wind or the shaking of the victim himself that brings his death closer, is only regarding Galus, because it says in a pasuk, V'yapil olav v'yomis, and v'yomis means that he died immediately without anything else contributing to his death or accelerating his death. All right, and over here, the Gemara is bringing two opinions about this. The first opinion says that if the wind gets involved, then you're going to be potter. But the fact that the victim himself was shaking, that's not considered to be another power that got involved, because that's the victim himself. But the other opinion says, punkt fakert, that no, the victim himself, that if he's contributing to his death, then that's considered that you didn't kill him yourself right away. But the wind getting involved, that's the nature of the world, and that's not considered to be another power that got involved. Like Gemara says, my benayu. What is an actual difference between these two opinions? It could be nayu, so the two differences. The shachte beveise, the sheisha, if this took place in a marble house, which is well insulated, and there's no wind that's getting in there, upirkis, but the victim himself was shaking, and therefore mitzad that he may have brought his death closer, but there is no wind there. Inami, or in the opposite situation, the shachte bebra, that this happened outside, but v'loy pirkis, but there was no pirkis, the victim himself was not shaking around, and it's just the wind that may have brought his death closer. The statik, then the Mishnah said, what happens with a person that became mute? And they say to him, should we write a get for your wife? And what did the Mishnah say? That you can follow what this person is showing to write a get. And then the Mishnah said that you have to inspect whether he knows what he's saying, if he nods his head, or you have to inspect him by something else to ask him about something. And you see 3 times if he nods his head yes or no, and then you can know that he understands the signs that he's doing. Fragt the Gemara, but how could you rely on that? V'leicha, shouldn't we be afraid? Dilme shachye de lav nakte, that maybe this motion of shaking his head no grabbed hold of him, that he lost his mind, he can't talk, he's mute, and he's shaking his head no for anything you ask him. So how does that prove that he's saying that he knows how to respond while he's shaking his head no? Inami, or if you're asking him things and you want him to affirm in the positive and he shakes his head yes, maybe maybe he's only shaking his head in the affirmative and it's just his head is shaking in that direction and it's because he's not well. So he answered, we don't ask him all at once, because then it's possible his head is just shaking in that motion, but we wait an hour, we wait time, we ask him once, and then later on we ask him again, and we see how he responds. But still the Gemara says, it's still possible that this person, every once in a while, he shakes his head, and therefore waiting is not going to help to be sure that when he shakes his head, that he's communicating properly. So the Gemara answers, what you have to do is either you ask him something, that's one question where you need him to answer no, and twice you need him to answer yes, that he understands what he's responding to, or v'trein lav and v'chad hein, or the reverse, you ask him something that he answers twice no and once yes, so he's not shaking his head in the same motion. So that's a sign that he knows what he's shaking his head to. Or the Rabbi Shmuel Tana, by Rabbi Shmuel they taught, you ask him for something that's usually, you only need it in the summer, and you ask him about this in the winter time, or you ask him something of the winter in the summertime, and you see how he responds to this. If he understands that it's the summer now or the winter now. So what's the example for this? The Gemara, is asking over here, what are we talking about? If you're going to say what we're talking about is glufkiri v'sadini. You ask him if he needs a coat. So in this middle of the summer, you're asking him if he needs a coat. Or sadini, you're asking him if he needs a very light sheet, which is usually used in the summer. So, but that is not a good sign to be sure that the person is understands what he's saying. Because leichesh, we should still be concerned. Dilme kura achdei, maybe what he became very cold in the middle of the summer. So even if in the middle of the summer he's going to answer that he wants a coat, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a shaitan. Maybe he just got very cold. Or maybe even in the middle of the winter, or in the middle of the summer, that is, he all of a sudden became very hot, and therefore, in the middle of the winter, that is, he became very hot, and therefore he just wants a very light sheet. So that's not a good sign. Ella says Rashi, it says the Gemara that is beperi. Now Rashi explains what does beperi mean. You offer him certain fruits that are only available in the winter, or certain fruits that are only available in the summer, and you see that he understands that it's not available in this time. Or Taisus here says that it's to pick the fruits from the tree in this time period where it's not available, and then you know if he understands what's going on.